Everyone is asking the same question right now. Will AI replace my job as an engineer? And I see this fear everywhere. In comments, in emails, in LinkedIn messages. And I get it. AI is automating code generation. AI is automating writing tests. AI is even doing infrastructure deployments in some cases. So naturally, people wonder, should I even bother learning coding or DevOps or cloud engineering, or will AI just make these skills obsolete in 2 years? And here is what I discovered after interviewing multiple people, like DevOps engineers with different backgrounds who just transitioned into the field, plus industry experts in the field. And the answer, honestly, surprised even me. And I created this video because I did not just want to have theory of me explaining some of the concepts. I wanted to have real people with real jobs, with different backgrounds, real salaries, and industry experts, all giving different perspectives from their environments for a complete and full picture. And let's start with the fear everyone has. So this is Anna. She worked in medical devices manufacturing for 8 years and then decided to switch to tech during COVID.
Yeah, I think it was a cumulative of things that I have already been working in the medical devices sector for quite a long time. It was like 7-8 years. I also have worked for different industries, and I saw that the type of job, it was kind of the same, even if I changed companies. And it was the time during COVID that also boot camps were very famous, and I was seeing a lot of stories on the internet from people that they completely switched careers, after doing a boot camp. And I was really, really intrigued by that. And and I decided to bet on myself, and do the same. And it worked for me.
Yeah. Now listen to Anna's reasoning for choosing DevOps specifically. This is really important.
Honestly, at the beginning, I was preparing a bit for everything, That's why I did data science, data engineering, But then I realized that, DevOps was like a very strong trend, And then after ChatGPT came out, and all this AI revolution, I saw that, DevOps is one of the more career-proof, future-proof careers that exist. And I'm very happy, that I ended up in this field. And also, it's a field that it's always growing, it's challenging always, you will never get bored, because there are always new tools appearing, and you have constantly be learning.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Did you catch that? After ChatGPT came out, she researched which careers were future-proof. And DevOps clearly stood out. But why? Let me show you something that will make this crystal clear.
Yeah, exactly. And as I say, I think this career is very future-proof. I think AI is not going to replace it anytime soon. So it's only benefits, in the future, because you have more experience, more knowledge, and also therefore you get a better pay. You have more options, more companies. Call you, recruiters, they contact you more often,
Now, Anna is not alone in this concern. Let me show you Rody. He's a test automation engineer with 13 years of experience. And he saw something happening in his field that made him realize that he needed to act fast. Okay, interesting. Did you also make the decision a little bit based on what the future job requirements would look like? Did you consider that in that mix?
Definitely, yeah. Because as I see, what I see in the field with QA is that initially you had manual QA, then all of a sudden QAs were expected to do automation, then all of a sudden CI/CD. So I can already, at least in my opinion, I think that the next step would be even more because technology is moving forward. So QA also needs to move with, for example, with AI or with infra as code, these kind of things.
You see the pattern? These are not people running away from AI. They are running towards the skills that work with AI. And that's the key insight that I want you to understand. But before I show you why this works, let me introduce you to the expert perspective. I interviewed Brett Fisher. If you don't know him, he's been teaching Docker and DevOps for over a decade. He has his own courses, his own podcast about AI and DevOps, and I asked him directly, is AI going to replace DevOps engineers? And his answer is going to change how you think about this entire topic. So pay close attention to this.
And even the best models that we have, the absolute best models at the top of the rankings, are only going to fix about 2/3, maybe if you're lucky, 3/4 of GitHub issues. So we have this thing called SweBench now, and all the models are listed there, and they're constantly competing with each other for the top rankings. But even if you paid the most money, the hundreds of dollars for the high-end Claude models or the high-end GPT models, you are at best going to get about 70% accuracy, which for a software developer, 70% means it won't work.
Yes.
It's not going to function at 70% correct. The app will not function. Eventually, there will be so many bugs, right? So it does. I think there is a moment with every developer where they're picking up steam, and then they realize that we're still many years, I think, away from these models being so trustworthy that we can just pass on our requests and not have to look at the answers. I think that's a real. So the idea of like an AI writing the PR and then an AI reviewing the PR and approving the PR, whether it's for software code or DevOps YAML, I think we're still many years away from that for the sort of fully AI, which is why I'm not worried about jobs and
interesting.
And stuff like that. I think most of that stuff is really hyped up, and don't believe anything in AI. If they work for an AI company, you just can't trust them because they're not living in reality with the rest of us. They're living like 10 years in the future or 15 years in the future. And
Okay, this is huge. Let me break down what Brett just said, because this applies directly to you. Even the best AI models today get about 70% accuracy. That means 30% of the time they are wrong. And in infrastructure, in DevOps, production environments, 70% correct means a lot of things break. So you cannot deploy a Kubernetes cluster that is 70% correctly configured. It will not work. This is fundamentally different from other fields. In content writing, for example, if AI gets 70% right, you can edit the rest. But in DevOps, in automation stuff, if your Terraform configuration is 70% correct, your infrastructure will not deploy or will just be misconfigured. Your CI/CD pipeline will not run. You will have to go through and fix all the issues and, in addition, validate whether the running or functioning code is actually correct with best practices. And your security policies will not protect anything if they're just 70% accurate. So what does this mean for you? It means AI becomes a tool that speeds you up, but you still need to understand what's happening. You still need human judgment to review the generated code, the YAML Terraform code. You still need to know if the AI suggested the right Docker configuration or the wrong one. The skill that becomes valuable here is not, can you write YAML from scratch and learn the syntax of Terraform by heart? The valuable skill now is, do you understand infrastructure well enough to know when AI got it right or wrong? And that understanding, that comes from learning the fundamentals and concepts and the purpose behind each technology in DevOps properly. Not from watching a few YouTube videos or doing some shallow Udemy courses, but from actually building projects hands-on, like doing it yourself, breaking things, fixing them, troubleshooting them, understanding why they broke, and most importantly, building complex projects and not just one Terraform script that creates an EC2 instance. Now, here is where it gets even more interesting.
So in all those generations of us moving from one evolution of infrastructure, whether it was a PC or servers or whatever, each time the sysadmin grew. So in the 90s, I could only really manage 10 servers. I don't even think I had 10. I had to babysit them. Everything was manual. There was no scripting or automation. Open source wasn't really popular yet in terms of typical enterprise infrastructure. And as open source grew, as the tooling grew over those decades, we went from, and I have a chart that shows like one sysadmin to 10 servers. Then with virtualization, it was one sysadmin with 100 servers. Then with the cloud, it was one sysadmin with 1,000 servers. Then with containers, it sort of went beyond servers and you thought about workloads, and it went to one sysadmin or DevOps person could do 10,000 containers. And our tooling got better, our automation got better, and each time it was all about a single individual managing a bigger and bigger fleet. So I don't look at that as DevOps lost jobs or ops lost jobs. We just were able to manage more. And it turns out so far, at least in my whole career, that companies and organizations they will take as much infrastructure as you can give them. Like they will take as much automation. They always want to run more stuff. I've never seen a team have an in queue, like their ticket queue, be zero forever. Everyone's got broken stuff. Everyone needs more things. They want to launch more apps, more copies of the app to make it stable, more for capacity, more disaster recovery locations where we can spin it up on the fly in case this place goes down. Like that's been expanding. And I don't think AI is going to cause that to stop. I think AI is just going to cause us all to manage more.
This is the most important concept in this entire video. So I even suggest that you write this down. Throughout DevOps history, every new automation technology made a single engineer more powerful. It did not replace the engineers, it made the individual engineers more powerful and productive. That has been a pattern. So one admin went from managing 10 servers to 100 servers with virtualization, then to 1,000 servers with cloud, then to 10,000 containers with Kubernetes. Each time, people feared, this will take away my job and my career safety. But what actually happened? Companies expanded, the projects expanded, they built more applications, they needed more infrastructure, they opened more data centers. The automation did not reduce jobs, it increased what was possible per engineer team or per individual engineer. And AI is actually showing the same pattern. AI will help one DevOps engineer manage 50,000 containers instead of 10,000 or even more. But companies will not fire engineers. They will expand their infrastructure even more. They will build new AI applications that need deployment. They will need more monitoring, more security, more compliance. So the demand does not shrink. It actually grows. It changes its mode. So you will not be doing the same thing as you were doing before, but it doesn't mean that the number of engineers with whatever skills become demanded will shrink. And you want to be the engineer who knows those new skills when the old ones get outdated, who knows how to use AI to manage infrastructure at scale, or containers at scale, or application deployment and development at scale. Now let me show you what Kelsey Hightower said about this. And Kelsey is someone who has been at the absolute cutting edge of cloud native technology for over a decade.
One thing I love about open source is the fact that it has a way of correcting, right? It has a way of balancing the scales a little bit. And there's various projects, but I remember when DeepSeek came out. Oh, it was so great to see this because everyone thought that the end game was OpenAI, ChatGPT, and NVIDIA. That's it. Everyone else would just fall in line. End of story. And then DeepSeek comes out. And everyone's like, oh my God, whoa. And these guys like, yeah. And look, maybe they copied some parts, but who cares? Yeah. This is the power of open source. We take the best ideas and we democratize them. And so when they did that, it reset the thinking a little bit. Right? Whoa. Looks like open source is going to be competitive here. NVIDIA isn't the only game in town. And going around the world, I'm seeing other countries getting inspired that, yo, wait a minute. We can build things too. We can create things too. We can compete too. We have good ideas. And so the way I'm thinking is that humans will do what they normally do. They will show up and leverage all of our tools. There's 9 billion people in the world. I don't think we're going to rely on just like a few million of them to decide what happens to everybody else. That's insane. And so as great as this AI train is moving, let's not forget the momentum that we've been building behind open source for the last 30 years. And I think if I had to bet, I think the inertia from open source the appetite for humanity to continue to share and care about each other. We see this with recipes, right? People come up with an amazing dish, they cook it for other people, they figure out the recipe, and they share with each other. And I don't think that stops when it comes to things like technology, because we've seen it with operating systems, we've seen it with protocols. I don't know why we won't see it with AI, especially once we democratize like the hardware and the rest of the stack. So my bet is most people are good. Most people want to do good things. And if we give them the tools to do that, they will.
Kelsey is talking about something deeper here. The question is not, will AI replace us? The question is, who controls AI? And in the open source world, in the DevOps world, we have a history of democratizing powerful tools. Kubernetes was open sourced by Google. Docker was open source from the start. Terraform, Ansible, all these tools that we use daily, they're open source. This means AI will not be controlled fully by 3 companies. It will be accessible to everyone, and someone needs to deploy these AI models. Someone needs to manage the infrastructure for AI applications. Someone needs to set up the pipelines, the monitoring, the security. And that someone is usually an engineer. In many cases, right now, DevOps engineer, MLOps engineer, whatever role that may be. In fact, let me show you something that makes this even more clear. Brett told me something that completely changed my perspective. There are actually 2 separate worlds forming right now. DevOps for AI, which is building infrastructure for AI companies, and AI for DevOps, which is using AI to do DevOps work faster and more efficiently. And both of them need DevOps engineers. Let me show you.
Yes, and in fact, that preceded everything we just talked about, right? Because I think we as ops and DevOps people, if we just combine all those into one, I think we understood that we were going to have to start building or managing GPUs and GPU clusters and Kubernetes on GPUs, and like that we were going to maybe have to do that as just a new piece of hardware. We haven't had a new piece of hardware really in infrastructure for decades. You know, we've been managing the same memory, networking, compute, disk. We've been managing that stuff for forever, since the PC was invented, and we haven't really had to worry about TPMs and TPUs and GPUs and APUs. I think are another one that's new, and these are new types of hardware. So for 3 years now, ever since really like a little bit before ChatGPT, but for at least 3 years at KubeCon specifically, because KubeCon is an infrastructure conference. So it's really about how do we do DevOps on infrastructure? It took us a while to get functionality even to do that. And then and to get the NVIDIA drivers on there and to all that stuff. And then how to know the difference between servers with GPUs and servers that don't have GPUs. And how do we make sure that we assign the right places in the right locations? How do we schedule all these things? How do we, and that was, even if you just look at the most recent KubeCon, probably 50 to 100 talks on that very topic. And it turns out we now have, years later, we now have lots of examples, well-documented examples, tons of KubeCon talks that you can look up on YouTube for free about building infrastructure on top of these specialized pieces of hardware. And then also, what does it look like to run a RAG yourself, right? What does it look like to deploy a model in a container image?
Let me explain what Brett is saying here, because this is a massive opportunity that most people don't see yet. Every AI startup needs infrastructure. They need to deploy their models. They need GPUs. They need Kubernetes clusters that can schedule workloads on expensive GPU hardware. They need monitoring to make sure their inference endpoints are responding. They need CI/CD pipelines to update their models. But here's the thing. AI companies are full of data scientists and machine learning engineers. They know how to build models. They don't know how to deploy them to production. They don't know Kubernetes or Docker. They don't know how to set up proper monitoring or logging or security. And this is creating a massive demand for engineers who know how to do that. Again, mostly DevOps engineers who understand both traditional infrastructure and the specific needs of AI workloads, which usually is referred to MLOps. And even if you're not working at an AI company, every company is starting to integrate AI. in their workflows. And that means more infrastructure, more services to deploy, more complexity to manage. And all of that, again, needs infrastructure, automation, DevOps expertise.
Which gives you this nice additional database of context to your AIs. And you learn how to run the AI models in the background using all these little Python scripts and things like that can now fit into containers. So that's the AI engineer, that it turns out. And then the DevOps engineer, now, if we're going to use AI for DevOps, doesn't have to know any of that and can just use the models and type in prompts and build scripts and automations to automate their own work. And I think all three of these could live in separate silos, more or less. Yeah. And they maybe share a little internal guild or group together that just talks about the AI stuff in general. But you don't have to specialize. You don't have to become an AI engineer to stay relevant in DevOps. Yeah. And you don't. But if you want to, you can do that. However, I would say, I do think for a very long time, we are going to have way less need for AI engineers coming soon than we're going to need DevOps engineers who know how to use AI. I think that like we have this saying now that, AI is not going to replace your job. A human that knows how to use AI is going to replace your job. Well, that does apply in DevOps. That if you are about, to me, using AI for DevOps is just like saying, I know Terraform. There was a time where if you knew Terraform, you were bleeding edge. But nowadays, if you're going to get a job in DevOps, you probably have to know that tool.
Yeah.
So in the future, or if not very, very soon, maybe 6 months, a year, if you don't already see it, you're going to start seeing DevOps engineer jobs that list, how to Claude code.
This is the critical takeaway. You don't need to become an AI engineer. You don't need to understand machine learning algorithms or neural networks. What you need is to be a DevOps engineer who knows how to use AI tools. Just like you need to know Terraform today, you will need to know how to use Claude or ChatGPT or Cursor to write your infrastructure code faster. The skill is not building AI. The skill is using AI to do DevOps better. And that requires you to understand DevOps first. You need to know when the AI generates correct Kubernetes YAML versus incorrect one. You need to know if the Terraform code makes sense or creates security vulnerabilities. So AI makes you faster, but only if you have the foundation to evaluate its output. And that foundation is DevOps knowledge, or the knowledge of the concepts and technologies behind. Now let me show you again, real people with real experiences who are living this reality right now. First, let me introduce you to Joseph, a staff-level cybersecurity engineer at PayPal with 15 plus years building cloud-native platforms, and now works at the intersection of DevOps, security, and applied AI. So I have two final questions. The first one is a huge topic right now, and I would really love to have your insight here and also advice from you to a lot of the, again, like a lot of junior engineers who fear IT and they feel threatened by it, but also a lot of experienced engineers who are maybe in a little bit more outdated IT roles, like network engineers, data science, sysadmins, and so on. Because you also have a unique perspective of not just engineer, but you're also a manager of cybersecurity engineering at a large company. So what is your career advice to people that are feeling threatened by AI? And many times they're asking themselves, is it actually worth for me to invest next 2 to 3 years learning something that may get outdated in the future because AI is going to take over every single job, including the IT roles? What would you tell those people in a way that they actually believe rationally that they're not completely threatened and going to be replaced by AI?
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of spaces. Definitely, I think we can contribute a lot with all the other AI productivity tools, right? So security and the infrastructure side of it, right? The way we ship, even if it is AI, it runs on a bare metal server somewhere on a VM or somewhere, right? So infrastructure provisioning or managing the infrastructure, that is definitely not going to change. It's going to be there for a long time, I will say. And security, right? we know about the shared responsibility model when it comes to AWS, right? So you know what AWS will take care and what we need to take care, what is the application deployment team will take care. So these AI tools right now, there is no shared responsibility model at all. Like it generates based on what it is trained, right? So maybe the responsibility and ownership side of it is definitely going to be there for a long time, even though we buy different tools and other things. End of the day, the tools will be managed by us.
Now, let me introduce you to Israel. He's originally from Nigeria. He studied civil engineering. Then he moved to the UK and decided to transition into tech. And his story shows exactly why DevOps is so future-proof.
Okay, so I need to say this, that I came from not like an IT background. Like I did civil engineering on my like back in Nigeria, because originally I'm from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And I went through the university, and after my graduation, studied civil engineering. Something within me tells me that this is not for me. Like I feel that like there's no way I can continue, going studying civil engineering. And one thing I said to myself, that I want a skill that is like a global skill. Because when you think about civil engineering and those kinds of professions, they are kind of, specific to one country.
Because it looks like you went through like this long journey of trying, front-end development, the back-end, the DevOps, but you still get it, you did the course. Like what made you still persevere and be like, I'm still gonna continue learning and finding out how to get into this field and not give up and say, maybe IT is not for me, maybe I should learn something else other than engineering. Like what made you stick to it long enough?
Okay, so one thing about me is that when it comes to, so I have like that kind of resilient spirit, So what actually kept me not giving up all this while was, I had the vision that, okay, if I give up, because then I was in the UK and, how visa restriction is and, and all of that, it means that after my studies, if I can't get a job that's going to sponsor my visa, then that means I need to go back to my country. And that was a huge motivation for me, that I can't go back to my country without, having a company that will sponsor me. And, being a DevOps engineer in the UK alone gives you, that opportunity, that leverage for any company to sponsor you, because DevOps engineers they are highly skilled and they are highly paid. And if you are being paid that kind of salary, automatically you beat the salary threshold for a company to sponsor your visa. So becoming a DevOps engineer alone has already put you way above other professions and put you in a better position for you to be sponsored. So that was one of my major reasons.
Israel went through front-end development, back-end development, tried multiple paths, but he kept going, and eventually he found DevOps. He did the CK certificate, then he enrolled in our DevOps bootcamp, and before he even finished the bootcamp, something happened. So let's talk about that. So you basically get through like 2/3 of the bootcamp, and did you start looking for the jobs because you felt ready already, or how did the interview come about?
Like it's like my journey is just kind of amazing. Like how, I don't know how to say it, but the truth is that I didn't even apply for the job. Like, being that I was coming from a boot camp, the thought of even applying for a lead DevOps engineer role is just, far away from me. So I didn't even have the boldness or the confidence to apply. So I think the talent recruiter for my company sent me a DM on LinkedIn. But then I was not even posting anything. I just posted my CK certification, and then I did Terraform certification. That was what I did, and there was nothing special about my LinkedIn. So what I did was I just added some keyword on my LinkedIn, like DevOps engineer, listed some tools on my bio, and that was it.
So let's stop right here, because this is critical. Israel did not even apply for the job. The recruiter found him, and this is happening more and more in DevOps. Why? Because there is a shortage of qualified DevOps engineers. Companies are desperately looking for people who understand Kubernetes and Terraform, CI/CD, cloud infrastructure. The demand is so high that recruiters are actively hunting for candidates. But notice what made Israel visible. He had certifications on his LinkedIn. He had keywords. He had proof that he knew these technologies. You don't need 10 years of experience. You need proof which is visible that you can do the work that they are hiring for. And here's what happened in his interview. Pay attention to this because it shows exactly what I have been saying about AI not replacing these jobs.
And one of the questions I was asked that actually gave me that selling point, like actually, pick the interest of the CTO was, if you have a pipeline that is taking too long to run for like 10 minutes, how do you, shorten the pipeline? How do you optimize the pipeline to make it run very fast? Because sometimes developers feel frustrated when pipeline is taking too long, to run and all of that. And that was one of the stuff I actually learned from your bootcamp, how to optimize the pipeline by using caches, by cache dependencies, leveraging Docker caching layers in the Docker file and all of that. So that was what I explained that to I explained it very well. I told them how Docker leverages, layers. So as a then, if you want to build an image, it's better for you to place those layers that don't change it frequently at the top and the ones that changes more frequently at the bottom. So I was able to explain this conceptually and all of that. So the CTO was just nodding his head. And, that was my first task as well when I joined. I was trying to optimize the pipeline to make sure builds are very fast, efficient, using caches, dependencies, and, etc.
So you see what happened there? The CTO asked about Docker optimization. Israel explained the concept of Docker layers, not from memorizing the syntax, but from understanding how Docker works. And this is exactly what I said earlier. The AI can generate a Docker file, but can it optimize it for your specific use case? Can it understand your build process and make it 10 times faster? That requires a broader and more complex understanding. And Israel had that understanding from actually building projects, not just watching videos. And this was not just any job offer. Listen to this.
Okay, let me share something with you. So I need to say this, that I landed 2 offers, not just this one. So I landed 2 offers. The first one was with a company the company was based in Poland, but they have the headquarters here in the UK. That was actually a DevOps. Well, that was a junior DevOps, right? It was a junior DevOps role. And I smashed the interview. Even before the end of the interview, they were already asking me, like, how much do they need to offer me to take my CV off from the market, that they don't want me to apply for any job. They just want to take me. As at there, but because I was naive, I was looking for a job. I was so fast. I just want to get something. So I said, okay, I needed something between 30 to 40,000 pounds, thereabouts. He was like, okay, they are going to send me the contract. And just 1 hour after the interview, they sent me a contract to sign.
So 2 job offers before finishing the bootcamp. One company sent him a contract within 1 hour of the interview. This is not luck. This is market demand, very clearly. And by the way, Israel is now a lead DevOps engineer. So he passed his probation after just 1 month instead of 3 months. He got a 10% salary increase after his performance review. Why? Because he keeps learning. He didn't stop after getting the job. And let me show you another example. This is Patrick, and he was a network engineer.
Okay, yeah, good question. And I think, so first of all, a lot of companies are not looking for specialized people right now. I mean, the big companies, small, still look for specialized people, but the big companies look for people all around there that would take any task, that they have some Python knowledge, they have some AWS knowledge, maybe some Azure. They are looking for basically problem solvers. They are not looking for software engineers or DevOps engineers anymore. They just want the work to be done, and that you have this personality of delivering the work they need. So if I was just starting out, I would probably join your bootcamp again, build one big project, and try to learn a lot of different stuff to be this all-arounders, to have to be able to ship something from the beginning to an end.
Patrick said something really important here. Companies don't want specialists anymore. They want problem solvers who can work across the entire stack. And this is perfect for DevOps because DevOps is inherently cross-functional. You work with developers, you work with infrastructure, you work with security, you work with networking, you understand the entire application lifecycle. When AI comes in, Someone who only knows one narrow thing becomes much more easily replaceable. But someone who understands the entire system, who knows how different pieces connect, that person actually becomes more valuable, not less. And AI actually makes this role more important because now you are managing more complexity. You are deploying AI models plus traditional applications. You are managing GPU infrastructure plus the regular compute. You need that broad understanding. Now let me show you Rody. He's been a QA engineer for 13 years, and he saw exactly what I've been talking about. AI starting to automate testing. So what did he do?
Yeah, well, basically the latter. I really enjoyed, let's say, the more technical things, and not to discredit test automation, because I really like and enjoy test automation. But I feel like these frameworks, they really overlap with each other. Like the other Cypress is very similar to Playwright. Of course, it has some discrepancies between one and another. But when I was really doing the technical stuff that I didn't know, I felt the enjoyment that I was like, oh, wow, this is actually interesting and challenging because I don't know. So that was definitely one of the triggers for me. And I'm not saying that test automation is easy because every problem has its own difficulty, let's say. But I felt that it would be, for me, a skill that would be very useful and helpful to get to know and learn, because I can use it in my day-to-day. But next to that, it was also really challenging. And for me, in jobs, I really need to be challenged to stay motivated and to move forward, because I'm quite ambitious.
So what would you suggest them to learn as the very first step, or like the simplest entry point into DevOps?
I would say pipelines for me, together with Docker.
Rody identified the exact skills that make him future-proof: CI/CD pipelines and Docker. Why? Because test automation alone can be automated by AI. But setting up the entire testing infrastructure, that actually requires much more complex and broader DevOps knowledge. When AI writes your tests, someone still needs to run those tests in a pipeline. Someone needs to set up the test environments using Docker. Someone has to design those systems and think about the architecture and optimization of that architecture. Someone needs to configure when the tests will run, how they report results, what happens when they fail, or what happens with those results, how to make them easily consumable. That's DevOps. And Rody saw this coming. He learned DevOps on top of his QA experience. And now he's a freelancer as a test automation specialist with DevOps skills. And he's definitely not worried about AI replacing him anytime soon, because he's using AI as one of his very strong and efficient tools. Now, here's something really interesting. Israel told me about how he's actually implementing DevSecOps in his current job, security automation. And this shows why DevOps keeps expanding and not shrinking. Did you get any feedback from your employer, from your manager about because it seems like you were, actively trying to improve the processes without
definitely
having to tell you like, hey, Israel, like, can you do something? Like, you are self-motivated to learn, you are self-motivated to implement those learnings. Like, what was your feedback from the managers?
Yeah, so on my performance review, I added that to because we have like a performance review every first quarter, and being that I was on my probation was supposed to last for 6 months, my review had to elapse for like 1 year. So in the annual review, I added that as one of my how I improve the security posture of the companies by making sure that containers are not running as root users in production, to ensure that we are using the least privilege for our deployment, and also giving proper arrowback permission to service accounts that are running stuff in Kubernetes, and also implementing scanning our containers, scanning our pipelines, scanning our pipelines to see if there's any hard-coded credentials and all. So I added that to my I added that to my PDRO, and after that I had a pay rise, which is like 15%. 10% of my base salary. So all of that actually added to my performance review, and so it actually helped. So I had a feedback from my manager, was super happy. The CTO were happy. They were so happy about my work rate and the value that I've added to the companies, across the year.
Look at what Israel is doing. He's not just deploying containers. He's making them secure. He's scanning pipelines for credentials. He's implementing proper permissions. So this is DevSecOps. And this is one of the fastest growing areas right now. Why? Because AI applications handle sensitive data. They need security. And every company integrating AI needs someone who understands both DevOps and security. AI will not automate this away. In fact, AI creates more need for this because now you have AI models that could potentially leak training data. You have more APIs to secure, more services communicating with each other, more attack surface. So every new technology creates new security challenges. And DevSecOps engineers are actually the ones who can solve them by automating security checks and security audits. And Israel got 10% salary increase for doing this work. And it is a proof that companies pay for skills that protect them, that give them very tangible value. And security automation is definitely one of those skills. So now you understand why DevOps is future-proof. But how do you actually position yourself to take advantage of this? Let me give you the exact strategy based on what worked for these engineers who participated in our DevOps bootcamp. First of all, you need hands-on projects, not tutorials that you can passively follow, not just certificates, like actual projects where you build something complex end to end. Anna said something that perfectly captures this.
The DevOps bootcamp, it was super useful for me because I don't have a computer science background, you know. But also I find that they don't really teach DevOps, if you study computer science. So the only way to really learn it is either by the job, if you have the experience, or through a bootcamp like yours. Or self-study. But if you self-study, it's a bit difficult to really show, that you have the level enough, to work later as a DevOps.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So you can't have a traditional degree in DevOps. That's yes. At least currently, it's not possible. So you have to have it either from self-learning or from experience, or like a bootcamp or a professional program. This is important. You can watch YouTube videos, you can buy Udemy courses, and those are good for learning concepts or like very, very high level stuff. But they don't give you the depth that you need to actually work as a DevOps engineer. Like, what are you going to do at the first day on your job as a DevOps engineer when you get hired if you never build something that resembles the actual real life project? And why is this happening? Because these resources teach tools in isolation. You learn Docker in one course, then Kubernetes in another video, then Terraform in a third course, but you never see how they connect together in a real project that is way more complex than just deploying a few EC2 servers with Terraform and configuring some basic networking configuration. So in our DevOps bootcamp, my goal was to make sure that the projects are completely end-to-end. You're not just learning Kubernetes, you are deploying an actual application to Kubernetes with a CI/CD pipeline automation, with monitoring, with proper security configurations. You are building exactly what you would build in a real company, in a real project. So you're actually prepared for that job. And that's what employers test in interviews as well. They don't ask you, what is a pod in Kubernetes? Or what is a service? Or what is the difference between them? They ask you, how would you deploy this application to production? And if you've only watched isolated tutorials, you will not be able to answer that. Israel told me he used concepts from the bootcamp directly in his interview. Anna said that the Terraform and Kubernetes modules were the foundation for her current job. And Patrick said that he would build one large end-to-end project if he was starting over. One solid, complex project teaches you more than 10 simple tutorials because you have to make decisions. You have to troubleshoot when things break. You have to understand why you're using each tool, not just how to use them. Second strategy, portfolio plus certificates. Israel had both, and that combination got him 2 job offers before he even finished learning.
So I had just my little DevOps experience, like when I told you earlier that I was shadowing my friend in Poland on Capgemini. I just added some few things, and I also buttressed on what I'm actually learning on the bootcamp, like those my projects. So I added my project on the project session with a link to my GitLab. Yeah, I think GitLab. Yeah, I added a link
so
to
you
my
included the project
GitLab
portfolios as well from the bootcamp.
Yeah. So in the GitLab, and also I also added my GitHub portfolio as well, because what I do is that whatever I learn using GitLab, I try to do it in GitHub as well, just to see how it works. So I added GitHub, GitLab, and I also added my certifications, just my CK and Terraform.
Your portfolio is proof. Certifications show that you have passed the exam, but a portfolio shows that you can actually build things. And here's what most people don't know. Employers actually look at your projects. Anna told me that they asked her specific questions about her configurations from her demo projects that she sent along. They wanted to know why she configured things in a certain way. And that proves that employers are interested in your project portfolio, and they want proof that you understand what your project is about and you didn't just copy it from somewhere. So your portfolio needs to be on GitHub or GitLab publicly with proper structure, README file explaining what you built and why, with clean code structure, easily understandable for whoever is looking at them, with actual working configuration, not just empty files, and combine that now with certifications, CK for Kubernetes, maybe AWS certificates, and this entire thing validates your knowledge. Together with projects, they make you a strong candidate, so you can stand out. And this is especially important if this is your first ever DevOps job, because you don't have a work experience. And this combination is what got Israel noticed by recruiters. He didn't apply, they found him because he had visible proof of his skills. Third strategy, keep learning even after you get the job. This is what separates good engineers from great engineers, and it's what makes you truly future-proof when you do not stop learning.
Let me say something. I will go back to that question. So when I joined the company, it was like my probation was supposed to last for 3 months, but then even after 1 month, I already passed my probation. So as at then, I decided to obviously, one thing about me is that I don't like being in one place for a very long time. So I want to be upskilling.
Israel passed probation in 1 month instead of 3. Then immediately enrolled in the DevSecOps bootcamp. Why? Because he knows the learning never stops. Anna is preparing for the Red Hat certification while working full-time. Rodi is building additional projects and writing blog articles. Patrick is exploring AI tools and automation. Do you see the pattern? This continuous learning is what really keeps you ahead. When AI evolves, you just evolve with it. When new tools emerge, you learn them, you stay curious, you stay hungry, while you still have that comfortable job security. Companies pay more for engineers who grow. Israel got a 10% raise after just 1 year. Anna says that recruiters contact her regularly now because of her continuous upgrade of her skills. Rodi went freelance because he had options. And that only happens if you keep improving and upgrading your skills. Now let's talk about the investment, because learning DevOps properly takes time and effort. It's not a weekend course and it's not a quick fix, but here's what the payoff looks like. That was actually one of my questions I wanted to ask. So let's zoom into that moment, like the day that you decided to enroll in the bootcamp. So you studied the curriculum, right? Because you want to be sure that it matches the requirements of the job. So you see what technologies are taught, which projects. So what was your thought process? So when you decided this is, because it is a considerable amount of money when you don't have the job yet, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be kind of sure that you're gonna get the job after it, so investment pays off. So what was your thought process exactly of deciding, you know what, I'm gonna make this investment?
So my thought process was like, the first thing I did was, when I went through the roadmap, I saw all the tools, and then when I compare it to most of the job descriptions, like jobs and everything matches, especially the Terraform, the Kubernetes, the Ansible, and AWS, and those were highly in demand as at then, in the UK. And when I saw it, I said, I think the investment is actually worth it.
Israel did market research. He looked at job descriptions, he compared the bootcamp curriculum to what companies actually need, and he saw that they matched. And this is very smart. Do not just randomly learn technologies. Learn what the market demands. Right now, that's Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform, CI/CD, cloud platforms, monitoring, security. These technologies are not going away. Companies have massive investments in Kubernetes clusters. They have thousands of containers running, and they need people who can manage this infrastructure. And yes, it requires investment. It requires time investment. Our bootcamp takes 6 to sometimes longer if you're working full-time and learning part-time. It takes money investment. It costs money if you want to get quality training. But compare that to the payoff. Israel landed a lead DevOps engineer role. And if you look at the job market in the UK, that's 50 to 80,000 pounds per year. Anna landed a DevOps role in Switzerland. Patrick is working at the big tech company. Rodi went freelance and can charge premium rates now because of his edit skills. So the investment pays for itself like the first few months of your new job. And then you're earning significantly more for years to come. And here's what you need to understand. The investment is not optional anymore. The market is getting more competitive and evolving every day. Anna said this perfectly.
Yeah, I find that, I cannot really say because I didn't experience it before, but this is what I read, that I find that now as the job market is very challenging, the process it's more and more difficult, and there are more rounds than they used to be, and also the difficulty, on the interviews is much higher than what it used to be.
The interview process is harder now. Companies are more selective. They're testing deeper. They want to make sure that you can actually do the work, not just talk about it. And that means you cannot shortcut the learning anymore. You can't watch a few YouTube videos and expect to pass technical interviews. You need a real depth, like real projects and real understanding. And you cannot build this deep technical understanding with simulated lab environments where not actually deploying stuff in real environments, or with some shallow Udemy courses or even YouTube tutorial, even including our YouTube videos and courses, because they're just not deep enough and practical enough to prepare you for an actual job. During technical interviews, they ask you questions to validate that you're ready for an actual job. And that takes structured learning, not random tutorials just chained together. A proper curriculum that builds knowledge step by step, and projects, complex end-to-end projects that force you to connect concepts together. And you also probably need support from the community and actual engineers when you get stuck. And this is why graduates from proper bootcamps like ours succeed, because they invest the time and money upfront in building those skills. They build the foundation, and then they have careers that last decades, not just years. Let me summarize everything you learned today. DevOps is not being replaced by AI. It's a very clear and solid statement right now. It's becoming even more valuable because of AI. And here is why, as a summary. First of all, AI needs infrastructure. Every AI application needs deployment, monitoring, security, CI/CD release pipeline, because the AI models get updated and deployed with new versions, and someone has to build that infrastructure. And that someone is usually a DevOps engineer or engineer with those DevOps skills. Second, AI increases scale instead of reducing jobs. Throughout history, automation made engineers more powerful. One engineer managing more servers, more containers, more complexity. AI actually continues that pattern. And companies expand because they can do more now. They need more engineers to manage that expansion. Third, AI is a tool, not a replacement. No matter how powerful and self-thinking and creative it is, it's still a tool. You still need human judgment in many cases. You still need someone to verify the AI got it right. You still need someone to deploy the production and take responsibility. AI gets about 70% accuracy right now, and in infrastructure, that means it fails. You need the knowledge to fix what AI gets wrong. Fourth, new specializations are emerging now. DevSecOps, MLOps, platform engineering. So AI actually creates new roles, not eliminating existing ones. And all of them need DevOps foundation. You heard from the real people today. Israel from civil engineering to lead DevOps engineer in under 2 years. Anna from medical devices to DevOps in Switzerland. Patrick from network engineering to big tech with a much more challenging and exciting job. Rodi from QA to freelance with DevOps expertise. They all made the same decision to invest time and effort to learn DevOps properly, once as a foundation, and then reap the benefit of it for years and decades to come. Not from random tutorials. I mean, they tried, but they still needed structured training with real projects to really get that knowledge. And now they have careers that are growing and expanding, not shrinking. And the experts even confirmed it. Brett says that we're many years away from AI replacing DevOps work. Kelsey says humans will control how AI is used, not the other way around. And both of them confirm the increasing demand for DevOps engineers or architecture roles in general who have this skill set. So here's my question for you. Are you going to wait and see what happens, or are you going to position yourself now actively while the demand is still high and companies are actively looking for DevOps engineers? Because the window is open right now. Companies need people. The shortage is real. But as more people realize this opportunity, competition will increase. If you want to see exactly what technologies these graduates learned, what projects they built, what curriculum gave them the foundation to land these jobs, we actually have 2 resources for you that you can check out and see for yourself. First, you can download the DevOps roadmap that shows you exact learning path, the technologies you need to know, the sequence of how to learn, in which order to learn each one. And it is the same roadmap that Israel used to research whether DevOps was worth learning or not. And it's free, link is in the description. Second, check out the demo projects from our bootcamp to see the actual hands-on work that teach you the in-depth knowledge, not just simple demo projects. The projects that got Israel 2 job offers, the projects that Anna showed in her interviews, the projects that gave them confidence to answer technical questions, also free to download from the link below. And if you decide you want structured training like they had, our DevOps Bootcamp is available. But even if you don't enroll, use the roadmap, use the demo projects, start building, start learning without actually learning the practical skills. Because whether you learn with us or somewhere else, the important thing is that you start. The opportunity is here. DevOps is future-proof and AI is actually making it more valuable, not less. So use that opportunity. The engineers who understand this will actually thrive in the next decade, and I will keep making videos or give you updates on where the trend is going so that you're always informed. You need to decide which one you're gonna be. Decide to actually really lock in and learn those foundational skills to accelerate your career growth, or kind of stretch it out and feel stuck or like running in circles for the next month or years. So download the roadmap, look at the projects, make your decision, and let me know in the comments what your biggest concern is about transitioning into DevOps. I try to read every comment and I'll help you figure out the right path for your situation. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.